Classified footage of objects freezing mid-air, slamming into the ocean and vanishing. Over 80 security tapes from an attack on the Pentagon seized and never shown to the public. And a 1990 sighting of a massive diamond-shaped craft over Scotland, the clearest image of it still being withheld. These are disturbing videos that authorities have refused to release. In January 1996, something happened in the city of Varginha, Brazil, that a lot of people have compared to Roswell. So a bunch of witnesses, including 3 young women, reported seeing a creature with dark, oily skin and bright red eyes crouched near a wall in a neighborhood. The Brazilian military apparently cordoned off the area and, according to witnesses, took 2 of these creatures into custody. Military whistleblowers who've spoken up more recently say a 35mm film was recorded by a military cameraman during a medical examination of one of the creatures. A former officer said he saw about 30 seconds of the film and described the creature as looking like it was in pain and very unwell. There's also a video floating around of a supposed crash site near Varginha with a dead alien matching the description. Brazil's government has spent 30 years trying to downplay this, saying there was no alien creature, nothing happened, and the witnesses probably just saw a sick man in distress. According to them, no film exists, but they also refused to open the 1996 files that would back up their version of events. For a long time, the Pentagon's position on UFOs was basically, we don't know, and we don't really care. That shifted in late 2024 when a whistleblower exposed a secret multi-agency program called the Immaculate Constellation. This is a massive digital archive packed with terabytes of sensor data. The Department of Defense has sort of acknowledged it exists, but they won't show the good stuff. And by good stuff, I mean videos of UAPs, infrared video of metallic spheres sitting still in 150-knot winds, taking off at incredible speed, stuff like that. The most unsettling part of what hasn't been released is the so-called transmedium footage. Insiders who've supposedly seen the classified clips say there's video of craft hitting the ocean at insane speeds and not only surviving that, but continuing underwater without even slowing down. The official reason for keeping this stuff hidden is national security, but I think we can all agree it'd be better if this stuff was released. When Flight 77 hit the Pentagon on September 11th, 2001, the public was shown a handful of frames from one grainy security camera at the gate. You can barely make out anything, just a blur, a flash, and then fire, but the Pentagon isn't some isolated building in the middle of nowhere. It's surrounded by hotels, gas stations, traffic. There are cameras everywhere. Right after the crash, FBI agents fanned out and apparently collected footage from 85 different cameras in the area. To this day, only 1 or 2 of those have ever been shown to the public. Over the years, people have filed Freedom of Information requests trying to access the other 84. The gas station right across the street had a direct view of the whole area. Security cameras at a nearby Navy exchange should have caught the plane's entire approach. The government keeps saying the tapes are part of a closed investigation, but if the official version of what happened is settled and done, there's really no good explanation for why over 80 camera angles are still locked away. But the altitude the plane was flying should have shown up clearly on a ton of high-speed cameras. Without these tapes, there's always going to be a gap in what people know about that warning. Back in 1979, a US Vela satellite was passing over the South Indian Ocean when it picked up something it wasn't supposed to see. It recorded a double flash, which is the specific light pattern a nuclear explosion produces. The government moved fast to shut down the conversation. They put together a group of scientists who suggested the satellite was old and malfunctioning, or that maybe a tiny meteor happened to hit at the exact right moment. But the rest of the data from that day doesn't line up with the story. Underwater listening devices picked up the sound of an explosion at the exact same location. The CIA reportedly has intelligence confirming that Israel and South Africa conducted a secret joint nuclear test. This is one of the most protected secrets from the Cold War era, because admitting it happened would mean the US failed completely at keeping nuclear weapons from spreading. Original data from that satellite, all the raw readings and recordings, it's still classified. If it were ever released, it would almost certainly confirm that a nuclear bomb went off in secret, and the US decided to cover it up and move on. In 1990, two guys hiking through the Scottish Highlands saw something large and diamond-shaped hovering in silence over the landscape. They managed to take 6 photos before a couple of Harrier jets showed up to check it out. For the next 30 years, those photos were basically a myth in UFO circles, said to be the clearest evidence ever captured. Then in 2022, a heavily degraded 6th-generation photocopy of one of the images leaked online. Even in that condition, though, it looks genuinely strange. The real negatives are locked up by the UK's Ministry of Defence and won't be released until 2076. The UK Ministry of Defence originally had plans to release the files in the early 2000s, but they reversed that decision and tacked on a 50-year extension with no real explanation. Even from the leaked copy, the object looks solid and metallic. Researchers think the original negatives are sharp enough to show actual surface detail, maybe even markings of some kind. Some people think it was a secret American stealth aircraft. Others think it's something harder to explain. The Yemen Orb came up during US government hearings on UAPs a couple years ago. In 2022, an American MQ-9 Reaper drone was running a mission over Yemen when it picked up a small silver round object in the air. Reaper's camera is serious equipment. It can read a license plate from miles away. Well, it locked onto the sphere and tracked it for several minutes. The object had no wing, no tail, no visible exhaust. The Pentagon put out a short, low-quality clip of this, but it doesn't really show anything too useful. Whistleblowers who have testified say the full high-definition footage shows the object accelerating instantly, but not gradually, immediately, in a way that would destroy any aircraft that we have. At one point, it reportedly spins around and shoots off at a speed that should be physically impossible. The reason the better version hasn't been released is that the Reaper's sensor system is classified. So by hiding behind that, they've managed to keep buried a video that, by all accounts, shows a solid object doing things that physics say it shouldn't be able to. For more than 100 years, Sandy Island showed up on maps as a real landmass sitting in the Coral Sea between Australia and New Caledonia. It was on Google Earth. It was in atlases. In 2012, a team of Australian scientists sailed out to the exact coordinates on the research vessel Southern Surveyor to study it. When they got there was nothing. It was just open water, about 4,500 feet deep. The team spent days in the area using sonar and underwater cameras trying to work out how a 15-mile-long island could appear on maps for over a century without actually existing. The expedition apparently recorded a lot of underwater footage of the sea floor in that area. The story was reported publicly as just a mapping error, but some of the researchers hinted that the sonar had picked up unusual formations down there that were hard to explain. The underwater camera footage from that dive has never been released. One theory is that what was thought to be an island wasn't real land at all, but just a huge mass of floating volcanic rock. Others think there's something stranger going on. Before Yuri Gagarin became the first human in space in 1961, the Soviet Union was pushing incredibly hard to win the space race, and they weren't being careful about it. For years, people have talked about lost cosmonauts, pilots who allegedly went up before Gagarin but didn't make it back, and whose missions were wiped from the record. Two Italian brothers who were amateur radio operators in the early 60s recorded audio that sounds like a woman speaking in Russian in distress as something burns up in the atmosphere from a mission that the Soviets never admitted existed. The Russian government has the old KGB and Soviet space program archives that could answer all of this. What you're looking at here is some of the only home video footage of one of the most widely cited UFO cases in history, the Phoenix Lights. On March 13, 1997, thousands of people across Arizona saw this massive formation of lights moving through the sky. There were countless witnesses from Nevada all the way to Phoenix. This was in 1997. Home video cameras were pretty common by this point, so why is there not more footage? A handful of clips were shown in the news, but a huge portion of the raw footage was supposedly collected by authorities and never fully released. What the public usually sees are short, low-quality clips, but people who turned in their original tapes have said the full recordings were much clearer. Some described a solid, V-shaped object blocking out the stars as it passed overhead, not just separate lights floating in formation. The official explanation is that the lights were flares dropped during a military exercise, but A lot of witnesses who watched this happen that night have said they've never bought that explanation. There was an object, a massive one, definitely not just flares. In 2014, an ROV operated by an oil company in the Gulf of Mexico filmed one of the best videos ever taken of a giant oarfish. These are enormous fish that live deep in the ocean and are basically the real-life version of sea serpent stories. I mean, these things can grow 26 feet long. Anyway, the clip that ended up online was about 10 minutes long, but supposedly the ROV actually tracked the fish for much longer than that and saw something else. As the camera followed the oarfish deeper, it reportedly filmed something large sitting on the seafloor, something that looked almost man-made. Structures definitely weren't connected to any known oil project in that part of the ocean. The company reportedly pulled the ROV out. The longer version of the footage was never released to the public. That's been the video for today. I will catch you, yes you specifically, in the next one.